I complied when my wife texted, "I want a divorce. Lawyers only." 3 days later, she was sleeping on a couch and begging for the credit cards back. Then I found the hidden accounts. My wife of 12 years ended our marriage with a 15-word text message demanding all communication go through her lawyer. She expected me to panic, beg, and keep funding her luxury lifestyle while she planned my financial execution. Instead, I simply replied, "Understood," instantly terminated every credit card, auto transfer, and streaming service in her name, and let the cold, hard reality of the legal system she weaponized tear her life apart. Hey everyone! So, I am writing this from the office of my heavy machinery repair shop, where I've spent the last few weeks focusing on rebuilding a massive diesel engine instead of dwelling on how my life was detonated by a single, cowardly text message. After over a decade of marriage, you'd think I would rate a face-to-face conversation. But looking back, I should have seen the tactical strike coming. Buckle up, because the level of entitlement and manipulation in this story is staggering. Some necessary context before I get into the absolute nuclear blast that was last Tuesday. I am 2 male, a certified heavy diesel mechanic and fleet servicer with my own commercial operation. I didn't come from money. I started out at 22, working in remote Alaskan logging camps. I was putting in 80 to 90-hour weeks in conditions that would break most people. I spent 6 winters in -40-degree weather, living in worker housing that was basically a series of glorified, uninsulated shipping containers. I'd be out in the snow, hands completely numb, trying to replace hydraulic lines on massive timber harvesters while the wind howled. Most of the guys I worked with blew their hazard pay on massive lifted trucks, expensive toys, and liquor. I didn't. I saved every single possible dollar. I ate cheap, wore my gear until it fell apart, and hoarded my cash. By the time I was 29, I had enough saved to put a massive down payment on a modest commercial warehouse and buy my own diagnostic equipment. I spent every weekend and evening after my day job setting up the shop, building client relationships with local freight companies, and creating a business from the ground up. The first 2 years were absolute hell. I took every single job, no matter how small, dirty, or underpaid. I repaired farm tractors, fixed local delivery box trucks, and fabricated custom parts for local manufacturing plants. I slept maybe 4 hours a night on a cot in the office. I made just enough to keep the lights on and pay my taxes. Then, in my 3rd year, I landed a massive, exclusive contract with a regional logistics company that needed their entire fleet of 70 trucks serviced regularly. That contract changed my life. It paid for better equipment, which led to faster turnaround times, which brought in even bigger corporate clients. 6 years ago, I officially quit any outside work and went full-time with my own operation. Today, I have 4 full-time mechanics working for me, a massive 6,000 square foot climate-controlled facility, and I cleared just over $135,000 last year after all business expenses and payroll. My wife, Elena, 39 female, works as a freelance virtual assistant and event planner. She makes maybe $1,500 a month in cash, mostly working a few hours a week from her laptop. We met when I was just starting the business, and things were great for a long time. But there was always a dark cloud hovering over our relationship, and her name was Valerie. Valerie, 46 female, is Elena's older sister. She works as a corporate compliance officer and has been bitterly divorced for about 9 years after her husband left her for a much younger woman. Since that day, Valerie basically appointed herself as the president of the neighborhood man-hating club. She has a cushy, high-paying corporate job and spends literally all of her free time telling anyone who will listen that men are the root of all human suffering, especially me. Valerie's interference was subtle at first. About 7 years ago, Elena mentioned casually over dinner how Valerie thought it was highly problematic that I handled our household budget. Most modern couples make financial decisions together, Elena said, parroting her sister's exact corporate tone. I calmly reminded Elena that when we got married, she had literally handed me a stack of unopened bills and told me she had massive anxiety regarding numbers and begged me to handle the math. 5 years ago, Elena started randomly questioning standard purchases I made for the shop. Valerie says business expenses should be strictly walled off from personal finances, and your equipment purchases are draining our potential wealth. I had to sit down and explain, for the 100th time, how cash flow, tax write-offs, and depreciation work in a small LLC. Elena nodded, but her eyes were glazed over. clearly unconvinced because it didn't match her sister's narrative. 4 years ago, we were at a family Thanksgiving dinner when Valerie loudly, in front of the entire extended family, asked if Elena had to submit a requisition form to her warden just to buy a new winter coat. Elena nervously laughed it off. But I noticed a distinct shift in her shopping habits after that day. She started hiding small purchases. I'd find shopping bags stuffed in the back of her closet, and she started aggressively removing price tags before I even got home. Fast forward to last Tuesday afternoon. I was in the office, finishing up a complex diagnostic report for a fleet of refrigerated trucks. My hands still covered in grease. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from Elena. "Marcus, I want a divorce. Direct all future communication through my attorney, Arthur Sterling. Contact information to follow. 12 years of marriage. A decade of building a life together. Ended in a text message shorter than an automated dental appointment reminder." There were absolutely no warning signs that I had noticed. We'd had a perfectly pleasant dinner the night before, and we had even made plans to go to a home improvement store that coming weekend to look at new patio furniture. Everything seemed completely normal. Well, except for the massive, bizarre blowout argument we had on Sunday night. Elena had been spending an increasing amount of time with Valerie lately. Sunday brunches, weeknight dinners, constant, endless texting. I didn't think much of it until Sunday evening, when I logged into our joint banking portal to pay the mortgage and noticed our joint savings account was suddenly missing $6,000. "Hey, why did you transfer $6,000 out of savings without mentioning it?" I asked her calmly while she was aggressively scrolling through Instagram on the couch. She barely looked up, her jaw set tight. "I don't need your permission for every single financial move I make, Marcus. It's a joint account. That's literally the definition of joint. I'm not asking for you to get permission," I said, confused. "I'm just asking where a massive chunk of our emergency fund went." Then she dropped the bomb. "You're so incredibly controlling with money. Valerie says you're financially abusive. You track every single dollar I spend to keep me subjugated." I almost laughed out loud. "Elena, I track our business finances and household budget because literally someone has to do it, or we lose the house. You haven't voluntarily looked at a bank statement in over 4 years. See, you're monitoring my banking habits," she yelled, standing up abruptly. She stormed off to the guest bedroom and slammed the door so hard the pictures on the hallway wall rattled. I slept alone Sunday night, but by Tuesday morning, when we passed in the kitchen, she seemed completely back to normal. She even kissed my cheek before I left for the shop. Then she nuked our entire existence via text 6 hours later. I sat in my office chair and stared at the message for a solid 15 minutes. All the standard emotions were rushing through me: rage, profound hurt, disbelief, betrayal, but they were quickly buried under this strange, icy, absolute clarity. She had set the terms of engagement. Lawyers only. Fine. My phone rang. It was Derek, my best buddy since high school and the owner of a massive commercial HVAC company. "Hey man, we still on for steaks and beers tonight?" he asked. "Rain check," I said, my voice sounding hollow even to me. "Just got a text from Elena. She wants a divorce," said lawyers only. Complete silence on the other end of the line. Then, Jesus Christ. "Are you at the shop?" "Yeah. Do not move. I am coming over right now." Derek showed up 25 minutes later, walked straight past my mechanics, entered my office, and locked the door behind him. "What the hell happened? Give me the completely unvarnished truth," he demanded. I turned my phone around and showed him the text. "Effing ice cold," he muttered, shaking his head. "Lawyers only, huh? Did you reply yet?" "Just sent the word understood," I said. "Smart man. Listen to me very closely, Marcus. There are 2 things you need to do right freaking now." Derek leaned forward, planting his hands on my desk. "First, you are going to call Rachel Vance. She handled my cousin's catastrophic divorce 2 years ago. His wife tried taking him for the business, his pension, everything. Rachel completely dismantled her in court. Second, you are going to lock down your finances. Every single cent. Today, right this second, if she's going lawyers first via text, she is executing a premeditated strategy." Derek had been through his own absolute nightmare of a divorce 6 years back. He lost nearly half his HVAC business to a wife who couldn't tell a wrench from a screwdriver. He had learned the hardest way possible. The practicality of the situation instantly kicked in. Legal channels meant that all informal, trust-based financial arrangements were instantly void. Thankfully, we had kept our day-to-day finances mostly separate. It was a hard lesson I learned from watching my own father get financially obliterated in his divorce when I was 17. She had her personal checking account. I had mine. The business was protected under a robust LLC structure that entirely predated our marriage. Credit cards? Elena had authorized user cards on my primary accounts, but absolutely no joint ownership. I logged into my banking apps, found the 3 cards she carried, canceled them all, reported the user as no longer authorized. Done. Monthly transfers? Because she only made a pittance from her freelance work, I voluntarily sent $3,000 monthly to her personal account to cover her personal shopping, salon visits, and whatever else she wanted. Logged in. Canceled the recurring transfer, effective immediately. Subscriptions? Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu. The premium meal delivery kits. All under my name, tied to my accounts. Logged out of all devices globally. Changed every password to a randomly generated string of characters. If she wants to watch streaming shows while plotting my downfall, she can pay for it herself. Vehicle? The 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee she drives daily is leased entirely in my name, and it sits on my auto insurance policy. I didn't cancel the insurance immediately. That was too risky from a legal liability standpoint if she crashed it, but I flagged the account to discuss an immediate lease transfer with my lawyer. The gas card in the glove box was tied to one of the canceled credit cards. It was now a useless piece of plastic. The entire lockdown process took maybe 45 minutes. This wasn't malicious revenge. It was simply me accepting the brand new reality she had unilaterally dictated. She drew a massive line in the sand. Lawyers only? Done. Lawyers work on formal court-ordered agreements, not on the informal assumptions of a marriage she had just terminated via SMS. Derek nodded approvingly as I walked him through every single step I'd just taken. Good start. Now call Vance. Her lawyer's contact info arrived via an email from Elena an hour later. I forwarded it straight to Rachel Vance, the attorney Derek recommended. I emailed Vance a brief summary. Received text demanding divorce. Wife stated, lawyers only. I have complied. Need immediate counsel on asset protection, business shielding, and next steps. Ready to pay retainer today. I finished writing my client's diagnostic report, locked up the shop, and drove home. The house was dead silent. Half the closets were empty. She must have been frantically packing and clearing out her expensive clothes while I was working. I slept in my own bed, right in the middle of the mattress. For the first time in years. She had always complained about my snoring anyway. I slept surprisingly well. Fast forward exactly 72 hours. It was Friday afternoon. An unknown local number rang my cell. I had a very strong feeling who it might be. Is this Mr. Marcus Sullivan? A sharp, incredibly impatient voice barked through the speaker. This is Arthur Sterling, representing Elena Sullivan. My client is experiencing severe difficulties. Okay, I said, keeping my voice completely flat and devoid of emotion. Her credit cards are declining at the grocery store. Her access to household funds has been abruptly and maliciously terminated. This is highly irregular, Mr. Sullivan. The financial status quo must be maintained during separation proceedings. Mr. Sterling, I said calmly, your client texted me on Tuesday afternoon demanding a divorce, explicitly stating that all communication must go through you. I acknowledged her demand and complied. Our informal financial arrangements instantly ceased the moment she involved legal counsel without warning. Any future support requires a formal legal discussion through you and my counsel, Rachel Vance, whom I have already retained. There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear papers shuffling. She needs funds immediately. For necessities. Lodging. Food, he said, sounding genuinely thrown off balance. Where is she currently staying? I asked. That is not relevant to this conversation. You have acted in extreme bad faith by cutting her off without prior notice. Your client unilaterally ended our 12-year marriage via a text message and established the lawyers-only rule. I countered smoothly. She ended the status quo of trust and communication. Financial support will now be determined legally by a judge, not by panic calls, because a secondary authorized card was declined at Whole Foods. She was not the primary account holder on any of those accounts. An even longer pause. My client will be seeking emergency financial relief from the court, he said stiffly. That is her prerogative, I replied. Direct all filings to my attorney. You have her contact information. Have a good weekend. Yes, he clipped, and I hung up. She wanted cold, calculated, and legal? She was getting exactly that, weaponized. I texted Derek a summary of the call. He replied instantly. Sterling is scrambling. They 100% expected you to keep paying her bills while they positioned for maximum financial damage. Classic ambush playbook. Stay the course. After hanging up, Rachel Vance called me. She was sharp, aggressive, and straight to the point. She was a former district prosecutor turned high-net-worth divorce attorney with a terrifying reputation for handling high-conflict cases. She asked rapid-fire questions about my business structure, the lease agreements, and our banking history. Your friend Derek gave you flawless advice, Vance said when I mentioned the lockdown. This has all the hallmarks of a heavily prepared, premeditated strategy. It was not an emotional, spur-of-the-moment decision. The text message, followed by immediate, retained legal representation, proves she has been planning this for weeks, if not months. The lawyer's only demand is particularly telling. It creates emotional distance while positioning her to make emergency support claims to a judge. We are going to bury them in paperwork. 1 week after the text, things escalated exactly as Vance predicted. Sterling's first formal move came on Monday morning. He filed a motion for emergency temporary spousal support, plus exclusive use of our marital home, which she had already voluntarily abandoned. The amount he requested? $8,500 monthly. They essentially wanted me to fully fund her old luxury lifestyle, pay for a new luxury apartment, and cover her legal fees to fight me. The sheer entitlement was breathtaking. Vance responded instantly. She countered with an offer of $1,800 in temporary support, based strictly on absolute basic needs, not lifestyle expectations. Vance's filing heavily noted that Elena voluntarily vacated the marital home that I was still occupying and maintaining. It highlighted her explicit lawyer's only rule and framed my financial lockdown as a direct, logical consequence of her own written instructions. Then, because the legal route wasn't yielding instant cash, the personal attacks began. Elena's best friend, Chloe, called me on Wednesday night. I answered, foolishly hoping for some logical information. Huge mistake. Marcus, what the actual F is wrong with you? Chloe screamed, skipping any pleasantries. Hello, Chloe. Don't hello Chloe me. Elena is literally sleeping on my lumpy couch. You cut her off completely. She couldn't even buy groceries yesterday. You are making your wife homeless. Chloe, Elena demanded a divorce via a text message and told me to only speak to her lawyer. I respected her wishes. Bullshit. You know she barely makes anything from her event planning. How is she supposed to live? She's freaking out. Her freelance gig brings in cash. Money she clearly had access to before hiring a very expensive attorney without talking to me. Financial matters go through her lawyer and my lawyer. That is the exact process she actively chose. You are cruel and vindictive. After 12 years, she was emotional. She made a mistake. Sending a premeditated lawyers-only instruction is a very specific, calculated mistake, Chloe. So was retaining Arthur Sterling. We play by her rules now. I hung up. So now I was being painted as the villain for strictly following my wife's explicit instructions. The narrative she was spinning to our friend group was pure, unadulterated victimhood. Then, the final boss entered the arena. Valerie. I got a Facebook message from Valerie's account. Hope you're proud of yourself. Forcing my sister to sleep on a couch while you hoard all the money in your little greasy garage. Real big man. You are exactly the abusive monster I always told her you were. I didn't respond. I just took a screenshot, time-stamped it, and emailed it to Vance's paralegal to add to the file. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Caller ID showed Valerie. I let it go straight to voicemail. The voicemail was unhinged. You think you're so clever cutting her off like this? Elena gave you the best years of her life, and this is how you repay her? By being a petty, controlling little man, she is going to take everything from you in court. And you know it. We are going to ruin you. For someone who supposedly despised men, Valerie sure was desperate for her sister to keep benefiting from one's bank account. Derek came by the shop with lunch the next day. Heard anything from the legal front? Just the emergency filing, I said, tossing him the printed paperwork. They want $8,500 a month. Derek nearly choked on his sandwich. Jesus Christ. That's more than most people make working full-time. Well, Elena is used to a certain lifestyle, I said, perfectly mocking Sterling's arrogant country club tone. Yeah, A lifestyle funded entirely by your 90-hour work weeks and busted knuckles from those Alaskan winters, Derek said, his face hardening. Remember that Christmas you worked straight through the blizzard because the logging company offered triple overtime? Elena was absolutely furious. You missed her family's stupid ski trip, but she sure as hell enjoyed the $3,000 spa weekend you paid for as an apology in January. I remembered that winter vividly. Minus 45 degrees, laying on my back in the frozen mud, trying to weld a cracked excavator frame. My fingers were so cold they wouldn't bend properly for 3 days afterward. Elena got hot stone massages at a 5-star resort. I got permanent nerve damage in my right shoulder. This is exactly why I told you to call Vance, Derek said. She understands what guys like us have to sacrifice to build something. That lawyer Sterling has probably never had a callus on his hands in his entire life. The next day, I got an automated alert from a bank I hadn't used in years. It was an attempted withdrawal from an old, obscure savings account we had opened for a vacation fund years ago and completely forgotten about. It had about $3,800 sitting in it. Elena had apparently rummaged through old files, found the debit card, and tried to empty it at an ATM. The bank flagged the sudden, massive withdrawal attempt on a dormant account. I went directly to the branch manager, explained the pending divorce proceedings, and had the account completely frozen pending a legal agreement. It wasn't even about the $3,800. It was the principal. While her lawyer was screaming bad faith at me in legal filings, she was actively trying backdoor channels to drain cash. Vance was thrilled. This actually helps us immensely, she told me over the phone. It proves to the judge that Elena isn't just passively waiting for the legal process, but actively attempting to circumvent the very rules she demanded. Even my brother, David, started texting me. We used to be close. I had paid for his trade school. Now it was, man, why you gotta be so cold? She's family. You're leaving her with nothing. My reply. She was family. Her choice? Her rules. I'm following the law. He didn't text back. Another relationship casualty. Then came the emergency support hearing. Elena showed up to the courthouse looking intentionally disheveled. She wore a plain, oversized sweater, minimal makeup, and wouldn't meet my eyes. Sterling stood up and delivered a theatrical monologue arguing that she was destitute, starving, and horribly victimized by my malicious, sudden financial abuse. Rachel Vance didn't even raise her voice. She calmly stood up and presented the text message, initiating lawyers-only communication. She provided bank statements proving I had canceled supplementary cards and allowances only times after times that text was received. She showed irrefutable proof that I was still maintaining the mortgage, all utilities, the vehicle lease payments, and the insurance, all the major fixed costs. Then, Vance dropped the evidence of Elena's ATM attempt to drain the forgotten joint account, perfectly illustrating her hypocrisy. Mac, my shop foreman who had known us both for a decade, came as a character witness. He testified under oath that I had always been completely transparent about finances, never controlling. He detailed Elena's free spending, her frequent girls' trips, and her expensive salon visits. Mac remembered when my business was just me, a used toolbox, and a beat-up truck. He testified about a night when I had severe food poisoning, but I worked a 14-hour shift anyway, vomiting into a trash can between turning wrenches, because missing a fleet deadline would have bankrupted us. Elena had complained I was being dramatic when I finally dragged myself home at 4:00 a.m. The judge, an older woman with zero tolerance for nonsense, wasn't buying Sterling's theatrics. She asked Elena directly why there was absolutely no prior discussion or counseling before the divorce text. Elena mumbled something about feeling deeply intimidated by his financial dominance. I almost laughed in the courtroom. I am the quietest, most passive person in our personal relationship. The judge looked incredibly skeptical. At one point, Elena tearfully claimed I controlled every single aspect of her life, and she needed to escape her prison. Vance smoothly pulled out a blown-up printout of an Instagram post from just 2 months ago. It was Elena's weekend spa trip with her friends that I had fully funded. The caption read, "Freedom Weekend, so spoiled. Thanks to the best hubby ever for funding my self-care. Yeah, I'm just the worst prison warden in history. Your Honor, please review these credit card statements," Vance directed the judge. Hair salon, $320. Designer clothing, $540. Fine dining with friends, $480. All in a single month. all paid by Mr. Sullivan while he drives a 12-year-old work truck and logs 60-hour weeks at a repair shop. I watched Elena physically flinch as the numbers were read aloud into the court record. She had always insisted those expenses were completely normal for a professional woman. Funny how absurd they sounded echoing in a sterile courtroom. The result? Temporary support was ordered at $2,400 monthly. It was way closer to our figure than theirs. It was enough for absolute basics and partial legal fees, but provided zero funding for her old luxury lifestyle. The judge specifically noted on the record that Elena's own actions, the text message and the covert account drain attempt, heavily contributed to her current situation. We dodged a massive bullet, but the other side wasn't finished. Walking to my truck after court, Valerie was waiting by the parking meters. Her arms were crossed, designer sunglasses hiding what I assume were daggers for eyes. "This isn't over, you piece of garbage," she hissed as I walked past. "She should have left you years ago." "Funny," I replied without breaking stride. "I was just thinking the exact same thing about you." As I drove off, my phone pinged. Valerie had tagged me in a public Facebook post. "Some men think financial abuse is acceptable. Some corrupt judges enable it. The justice system is fundamentally broken to protect abusers," complete with 3 crying emojis. I sent the screenshot straight to Vance with the subject line, "Witness intimidation? Defamation?" Vance replied 2 minutes later, "Keep collecting these. We are building a beautiful pattern of harassment." Then, the dirty tricks really started. Dirty trick number 1. An anonymous complaint was filed with the State Mechanical Certification Board, alleging unsafe shop practices, improper disposal of hazardous chemicals, and severe code violations at my business. Thankfully, I run a tight ship. My shop passes regular state inspections with flying colors. A surprise inspector showed up, did a massive 4-hour walkthrough, found absolutely nothing, and gave us a clean bill of health. It was a clear, malicious attempt to destroy my livelihood and shut down my income. Vance noted it. It's tough to prove an anonymous source, but it added to the growing pattern. Dirty trick number 2. The Jeep Grand Cherokee situation. The SUV is a 2022 model, leased in my name, costing $620 a month plus insurance. After the court-ordered temporary support was officially established, Vance sent Sterling a formal 30-day notice regarding the vehicle. The options laid out were crystal clear. 1. Elena qualifies for a formal lease takeover and transfers the vehicle and liability entirely to her name. 2. She returns the vehicle to me or drops it off at the local dealership. 3. She finds alternative transportation, as I will no longer be funding a secondary vehicle outside the court-ordered support. Sterling responded with a blistering letter, arguing transportation necessity and demanded I continue making the lease payments indefinitely as additional support outside the court order. Vance shut that down immediately, citing the judge's exact ruling. Elena completely ignored the deadline. She kept driving the Jeep, probably assuming I wouldn't actually have the guts to stop paying for it and risk my own credit. She assumed wrong. When the next payment date hit, I did exactly what I promised. I withheld payment. 3 weeks later, I got an angry phone call from the leasing company's collections department. I calmly explained the situation, told them I am going through a hostile divorce, and stated I am not responsible for the vehicle's current location as I do not have physical access to it. I gave them Elena's current address at Chloe's apartment and explained she was an unauthorized driver refusing to surrender the property. They were not happy, but they had their target. 4 days after that, Chloe called me, absolutely screaming. Repo men had shown up and towed the Jeep right out of the yoga studio parking lot, while Elena was inside in the middle of a downward dog. Apparently, Elena had been hiding the car at different apartment complexes, thinking the repo guys wouldn't find it. That is exactly what happens when you ignore legal letters and court orders, I said calmly before hanging up. An hour later, my work email got hit with a message from Valerie. My sister is stranded in a parking lot with no transportation because of your sick, vindictive games. I hope you feel like a real man now, you psychotic jerk. Derek stopped by that afternoon and caught me reading Valerie's email. More from the Wicked Witch of the West? Yep. The Jeep got repossessed at a yoga studio. She's losing her mind. Derek laughed so hard he choked on his coffee. Remember when I warned you about Valerie at your wedding? You told me I was being paranoid. He had. At the reception, Derek had pulled me aside after watching Valerie corner Elena 3 separate times by the bar. That sister is going to be massive trouble, he had said. The way she looks at you? It's like she's already calculating the divorce settlement. I had dismissed it as drunk talk. I was an idiot. Sterling filed another frantic emergency motion, claiming I had maliciously stolen her vehicle and endangered her life. The judge shut it down immediately after Vance produced the notification letters, the ignored deadlines, and the prior court transcripts. The judge actually reprimanded Sterling in court for wasting the docket's time on an issue they had a month to resolve. But then, month 5 hit, and the financial discovery phase began. This is where the story goes from a standard messy divorce to a mind-blowing criminal conspiracy. When we started the process, Elena submitted sworn financial disclosures, claiming she had one personal checking account with roughly $1,200, some clothes, personal items, and absolutely nothing else. Poor, victimized Elena, left destitute by her cruel husband. Rachel Vance didn't buy a single word of it. She aggressively pushed for comprehensive, forensic discovery. She subpoenaed bank statements going back 4 years, tax records, investment accounts, and digital wallet histories. Sterling fought it tooth and nail, claiming harassment and unnecessary administrative burden. The judge overruled him and ordered full, unredacted disclosure. What the forensic accountant turned up was staggering. First, they found a separate, hidden savings account at a credit union 2 towns over. Balance: $28,500. The account was opened 3 years ago, with regular, systematic deposits. Second, they uncovered cryptocurrency holdings, mostly Bitcoin and Ethereum, worth about $12,000, all purchased during our marriage using marital funds. Third, they found regular cash deposits to her checking account that didn't match her reported freelance income, about $800 extra, most months that just appeared out of nowhere. But the real nuke was the emails. Vance subpoenaed Elena's communications, and we got access to a goldmine of emails between Elena and Valerie spanning back almost 3 years. They showed a systematic, calculated undermining of our marriage. Here are some highlights from the court record. 2 years ago, Valerie: he makes you justify your budget like a child asking for an allowance. That is textbook financial abuse, Elena. You need to wake up. Elena: it's just our system. I agreed to it because I hate doing the math. Valerie: classic victim mentality. He has conditioned you to be helpless. 18 months ago. Valerie: Greg at my office got divorced, and his wife took him to the cleaners. She got his retirement, the house, everything. You should seriously talk to her lawyer, Arthur Sterling. Just for a consultation. Elena: Val, we're not getting divorced. Valerie: just saying. Know your options. Men always hide money. You need to protect yourself. 8 months ago. Valerie: does he even know about that $600 Nordstrom trip? See, you're already hiding things because he's made you terrified of him. Elena: I'm not terrified. I'm just avoiding a stupid argument about sweaters. Valerie: that is fear, Elena. Normal marriages do not operate like a dictatorship. 6 months ago. The implementation phase. Valerie: you need your own safety net. Start putting cash aside where his greasy hands can't track it. I will help you set up a credit union account. Elena: that feels really dishonest. Valerie: it's not dishonest, it's survival. All men are financial predators. I'll take a 10% management fee just to handle the crypto transfers for you so it stays completely off his radar. Wait. Read that last part again. Valerie was charging her own sister a 10% management fee to help her hide marital assets. The twist hit me like a freight train. Valerie wasn't just ideologically manipulating Elena, she was financially parasitizing her own sister. She was siphoning off Elena's hidden money under the guise of protecting her. Guess where that $800 extra a month in Elena's account was coming from? It was cash she was skimming from our joint accounts, laundering through Valerie, who took her cut before helping Elena hide the rest. The most damning email was dated just 2 weeks before the divorce text. Valerie: Sterling says do it exactly like we discussed. Text message only. Absolutely no face-to-face contact. Demand lawyers only. Communication. Marcus is weak. He'll cave within 3 days to avoid a fight, and he'll keep paying all your bills while you maintain your lifestyle during negotiations. Men always fold when confronted with aggressive legal action. Once he's out of the house, you can move into my rental property and pay me the rent from your alimony. Valerie's master plan was to force a divorce, get Elena massive alimony, and then have Elena pay her rent to live in her investment property. She orchestrated the destruction of my marriage for a real estate cash flow. When Vance presented this evidence during mediation, the room went dead silent. Sterling looked like he wanted to crawl under the conference table and die. He tried to claim the savings were separate property from gifts, and the crypto was independent research. Vance methodically annihilated him. She showed the exact transfer dates, proving the hidden savings were funded by siphoning our joint account. She proved the crypto was bought using our Amazon credit card rewards points. But the best part was watching Elena's face when Vance read the email about Valerie's 10% management fee and the rental property scheme. Elena turned pale white. She looked at Valerie, who had insisted on being present for mediation, with absolute horror. The sisterly bond shattered right there in the conference room. Elena realized she hadn't been saved by her sister. She had been played for profit. Meanwhile, I had gotten our marital house appraised. It was worth about $115,000 more than our purchase price. Vance filed for it to be considered a marital asset for a 50-over-50 split, aggressively shutting down Elena's absurd claim that she contributed more equity because she picked the paint colors. I had done all the renovations myself, including building the custom kitchen island she loved, showing off online. Also, the anonymous certification board complaint came back to bite them. My shop's exterior security cameras caught Valerie's distinct silver Lexus SUV driving slowly past my shop 3 times the very morning the complaint was filed. Direct connection. Vance added it to our massive, undeniable documentation of harassment. We were approaching a contested trial. The judge had already signaled extreme impatience with Elena's bad faith tactics in pre-trial conferences, facing a catastrophic outcome, plus the very real threat of paying 100% of my legal fees due to the hidden assets. Elena finally broke. She agreed to settle, but I wasn't settling for the standard package anymore. Too much blood had been drawn. Vance and I crafted something incredibly specific. The final settlement. 1. I kept the marital house by buying out Elena's half at 15% below market value. This discount was strictly justified by her hidden assets and documented harassment. 2. My heavy machinery business remained 100% mine, with her absurd contribution claims completely dismissed with prejudice. 3. All hidden assets, $28,500 savings, plus $12,000 crypto, were declared marital property, but the judge awarded a 65-over-35 split, heavily favoring me as a direct penalty for her fraudulent concealment. 4. Her repossessed Jeep lease was officially terminated, and the $4,800 in early termination fees, repo charges, and penalties were assigned solely to her debt column. 5. She received exactly $0 in permanent spousal support due to her hidden income, deliberate premeditated planning, and bad faith legal tactics. 6. She was ordered to pay 40% of my legal fees on top of her own massive bills to Sterling. And the absolute masterstroke? Vance secured a 3-year restraining order against Valerie, preventing her from contacting me, posting about me, or coming within 500 feet of my business or residence, based entirely on the documented harassment pattern and the false regulatory complaint. The day after the judge stamped the final approval, Elena showed up at my workshop. Mac called me to the front office. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes. Noticeable weight loss. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by faded Target basics. "Marcus, can we please talk?" Her voice cracked. "Make it fast," I said, leaning against the doorframe, not offering her a seat. "The settlement is destroying me. I can't afford my apartment. My credit is ruined from the repo. I'm drowning." "You should have thought about the consequences before you launched an ambush divorce by text message," I replied coldly. "Valerie convinced me that you'd just fold and fund my new life. She manipulated me." "Yeah, we saw the emails, Elena. We saw her taking a 10% cut of the money you stole from us. You let her play you." "I'll lose my apartment," she sobbed, tears streaming down her face. "Not my problem anymore. We were married for 12 years. And you ended it with less consideration than canceling a gym membership. You chose this." She reached out and tried to touch my arm. "I still love you, Marcus." I actually laughed. A real deep laugh. "No, you don't. You love what my 80-hour work weeks provided for you." I nodded toward the exit. "You need to leave my property." "Where am I supposed to go?" she cried. "I hear Valerie has a rental property you can overpay for," I said. "You're not this cold, Marcus. This isn't you." "I adapted to the exact rules you set," I said, stepping back into the shop. Turns out, I'm pretty damn good at them. As she turned to leave, defeated, I added one last thing. By the way, all those emails where Valerie called me abusive while actively helping you commit financial fraud, they are part of the public court record now. Anyone can request them. Your friends can read them anytime they want. The look of absolute, soul-crushing horror on her face was worth every single penny I paid Rachel Vance. The aftermath. Elena is currently living in her parents' cramped spare bedroom. Her social media accounts went completely dark after several mutual friends actually pulled the public court records and discovered the truth about the hidden money and the sisters' extortion plot. Valerie got demoted at her corporate job. It turns out that falsely reporting a certified commercial business to state regulatory authorities while using company time and email leaves a digital trail that HR departments really don't like. The restraining order means she can't even drive down the main avenue where my shop is located without risking arrest. Elena still texts me periodically, despite the settlement terms. Her last one read, "I lost everything because of a stupid mistake. Please help me, Marcus." I have nothing. I don't reply. The only response she gets from me is the automated ping on the first of the month when the court-ordered transfer pulls funds from her account to pay off the legal fees she owes me. It's a monthly reminder of the absolute price of betrayal. Derek brought over a case of expensive steaks and a cooler of beer to celebrate when the final paperwork was officially filed. We sat in my garage workshop, the exact same place I had been sitting the night I got that fateful text message. "You built something real here, man," Derek said, gesturing around the massive, humming shop. "Something solid." She never appreciated what that took. She just wanted the harvest, not the planting. He was right. It was a brutal 7 months. It was expensive, exhausting, and stressful. But I am good. Better, actually. Without her dead weight and Valerie's toxic poison, the business is booming. I bought a restored classic muscle car last month, something Elena always vetoed as too blue-collar and trashy. I drive it every single weekend, and it feels damn good. There was no dramatic movie revenge. Just the steady, grinding consequences of her own terrible choices, meeting absolute, logical, legal resistance. The fact that she is broke, living with her disappointed parents, betrayed by her own sister, while watching me thrive, is a justice I couldn't have designed better myself. She wanted formal and legal? She got it, with all the freezing cold reality that entails. Measure twice, cut once. She measured wrong, and the cut was permanent. Tup commence. User 1. The fact that her sister was charging her a 10% management fee to help her hide money in a divorce is the most diabolical, hilarious plot twist I have ever read on this site. Valerie literally monetized her own sister's divorce. Absolute sociopath behavior. Glad you got out, OP. User 2. I adapted to the exact rules you set. Turns out, I'm pretty damn good at them. Chills. This is exactly how you handle an ambush. You don't cry, you don't beg, you just lock the doors and let them freeze in the winter they created. Rachel Vance sounds like an absolute shark and worth every single penny. User 3. The audacity to demand $8,500 a month after ending a 1-2-year marriage via text is insane. She really thought she was going to get a fully funded luxury life while playing the victim. The repo at the yoga studio is chef's kiss perfection. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Stay strong and enjoy the muscle car, man.